Hey there, it's Dave Duford from Final Expense Agent Mentor at feagentmentor.com. Today we're going to talk about what kind of person really performs well and would be a good candidate for the final expense business. The reason I bring this up is because a lot of people may actually find it interesting, the kind of people that actually involve themselves in final expense. There's a couple of character traits that I have seen now that I've trained several dozen, if not a lot more than several dozen agents. And I kind of want to convey them to you because if you're listening to this video, you're probably thinking about the final expense business and trying to figure out if it's an opportunity that's right for you. So let me kind of go over some of the basics that I've found. That's pretty fascinating. So first of all, final expense is a hard worker's dream job, okay? So what I mean by this is that the guy that performs the best in this business is not necessarily the smartest. I never mean that as an insult. It's just you don't need to be a genius like you would to sell, I don't know, engineers or scientists and have an extreme, detailed scientific background to sell insurance. All you need is some work ethic, some money to buy leads, and a burning desire to succeed. That's really the vast majority of what it takes to succeed in this business. So the guys that have done really well working for me have all been not necessarily salespeople, but people who have come out of professions that require a lot of grit and hard work. So for example, a couple that come to mind, I got a couple of agents that were horse trainers in Tennessee and Kentucky. Those guys worked their tails off, and they had to get in with horses and get beat up and pushed around all the time constantly, not only dealing with training the horses, but also selling the horses to their clientele and customers. So to me, I love guys like that. Interesting backgrounds, but the essence, exactly what I described. They have hard work ethic. Number two, I've had plenty of guys that come in from a small business or salesman background. All of those guys are really good candidates for this business. I have one gentleman who used to go cold call, door to door to sell, what were they called, like siding or kind of outside outdoor products for manufactured homes. He actually would lead generate too as well, but the point is he would go door to door, the same thing what we do, and go see and talk to his leads that way. I've got another agent who sold medical supplies, a little bit more of a scientific type of sale, but nevertheless still based in hard work and getting out there and seeing people. That's the essence is that the people that perform really well in this business tend to have the background of obviously a sales background or a small business background. Now that's not always the case. You know, I'll have the occasional person who has never done sales in a typical sense. They just have the work ethic and the burning fire to succeed, and that's totally fine too. You know, you don't have to have a sales background. I guess that's an important point too. You don't have to have a sales background to succeed in this business. You have to have the work ethic. That's a guarantee, and that's a definite requirement. But what you really need to have is the ability to be coached and to have the humility to understand that you're not going to know everything starting off, and that you need somebody to show you the way, especially in the beginning, to give you the best chances to succeed. So, and then for myself, you know, I own my own personal training business before I got into final expense. You know, I never dreamed or imagined of selling, which we'll talk about that in a minute, selling final expense. But when I came into this business, I understood how to generate leads. I understood why we spend money on marketing the way we do and why it's a good investment. And I didn't need to be sold on why I needed to drop the dollars to do that. I already did that in my business. And it got me results, so it made sense to me. You know, I had sold a little bit, not in a high-octane way like with final expense. So I wasn't really the best salesperson per se. And I didn't have any experience really going door to door or arriving unannounced or calling people. So, you know, yeah, I wasn't the perfect, you know, fit for this necessarily, but I had a lot of the characteristics that would help me succeed. I worked hard for a living. I ran my own business. I understood the value of training and also of marketing and why we have to set up a system to spend money to make money. Now, who kind of comes into this business? We kind of talked about the profiles of success, but you know, kind of a funny thing, at least with me, is kind of the age range of the agents that I work with. So take, for example, I would say out of all of the agents I work with, many of them tend to trend in the late 40s to 50s and above. I would say more than half do. And why is this? You know, I'm 30 years old. I'm probably the youngest of all of my agents. It's kind of funny to think about. But with the guys that I work with, a lot of them come into final expense because they just have been blown off in their career. Maybe they feel like they're unhireable because of their age. They become more of a liability, and corporate America is trying to box them out. A lot of them are transitioning from lines of work that just aren't necessarily, there's not opportunity anymore. You know, a couple of guys that are horse trainers used to train Tennessee walking horses. And that whole industry, if you pay attention to the news, is just almost completely gone. Even guys that are really good at it, like these two, they just can't find the clients like they used to because there's such a bad vibe from that business because for whatever reason. And so a lot of people transition to final expense because out of desperation they can't find anything else to do. And so they're anxious to get out and start working and find a line of business that has opportunity. And many just end up stumbling into final expense, doing their own research, looking at life insurance opportunities because they've heard of it and it looks like it could be good, so on and so forth. So that's kind of interesting. And a lot of them, like I said, have been in a career function for years and years and years, and they've just been put out of a job, for a lack of a better description. I would say my oldest agent is in his late 60s. Youngest agent is probably 30s, somewhere in there. And again, a lot of times you see that getting started in this business because of career changes and industry changes. Nobody ever wakes up as a child and thinks that I want to be a life insurance agent one day. It just usually isn't that way. We all kind of find our way into this business through calamities from other industries. It's just kind of funny how it works out. The other thing I'll say is the one other trend I'm seeing more of, which I like actually, is that a lot of my newer agents are transitioning from other markets in the insurance business. So I see a lot of agents now that have done business in Medicare. So take, for example, you know, they have seen, they have sold Medicare supplements or Medicare Advantage. And for whatever reason, they feel like they would like to harvest their book of business for the life insurance business, but they really don't know how to do it. Maybe they don't know how to prospect for it. They don't know how to underwrite for it. They don't know which carriers to work for. And so I'm able to solve that problem and offer them, final expense options and an approach to harvest that business. I had one guy sell $25,000 in premium off of his book of Medicare business in just 10 weeks. Didn't pay a dime for leads. It's fantastic. So that's that kind of opportunity is in there. So a lot of Medicare people come my way after they've done a couple of years there and just kind of want to branch out and work with somebody who will be a little bit more help than just say a contract holder, who actually will help them underwrite and place cases and that kind of thing. The other thing that we see a lot of is, even health insurance agents that are coming over. Even in the insurance business in general, there's calamitous changes in health insurance, not so much as in Medicare, but this is causing a disturbance amongst agents that have otherwise been more than content with what they do, and now are forced to branch out and find new opportunity because the old one just isn't like what it used to be. So, we've got that, and, that makes up really a large portion of the business. And so it's kind of interesting because, like I said, if you're looking into this business, we always kind of wonder, well, who does final expense? Never heard of it before. You don't really hear about it until you start investigating. But kind of the takeaway here is that, you can come from any sort of business. whether it's within the insurance business or outside of it, no matter if you're younger, but more likely than not, you'll be in the older scheme of things, in your 40s, 50s, and above. This business is great. You don't really have to have, like I said, the takeaway here is that, you know, it doesn't require industry-specific knowledge per se. It just requires the work ethic and the humility to be coachable, to be successful in this business. And that's what it's all about. You know, the strangest people, I wouldn't say the strangest people, but the strangest backgrounds tend to gravitate towards final expense for some form or fashion, for some way. That's just kind of how it is. So I figured I'd make this video because it is kind of interesting to remark and think about where all these agents are coming from and how that may impress upon you to think about why, you know, one would want to come into this business and what the common strings of characteristics make the difference in being successful. So this is Dave Duford from Final Expense Agent Mentor at feagentmentor.com. Check out my website if you're interested in learning more about the final expense business. I got a ton of videos all over my website, as well as YouTube and a bunch of articles too. Until then, thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.